What's cracking, everybody? You're back with Mr. Berger. Tonight, or today, we're taking a look at, it's basically 2.6 Hog Cycle, but I filled in a few things based on card levels. So what I've been doing for a while now, because Hog was my first win condition that I maxed out to max level, and then I switched over to Golem. I've thought, okay, rather than just kind of improvising and doing these, Hog NATO, Hog bait decks, I want to slowly but surely level up a really powerful, timeless deck. And 2.6, it pretty much doesn't get more timeless than that. It's one of those decks like Classic Log Bait that's been around forever, and even though it might not be in the best spot all the time, it's still there almost all the time. You will almost always find it in one of the top 10 or top 20 played decks in the meta when you're looking at grand challenges and things like that. So I've been slowly but surely requesting and getting all of these cards up for 2.6 Hog Cycle. I was sitting on 450,000 gold, and I finally started dumping gold into leveling up, like my Musketeer and my Skeletons and my Cannon and all those things that I had enough cards for, but didn't have enough gold for. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting down at under 50,000, and I don't have enough to max out my Skeletons. So I actually prioritized the Cannon and the Musketeer first, because those are a little bit more level dependent. If you are trying to prioritize card levels and you only have enough gold for certain things, like you have enough cards to level up multiple cards in your deck, but you only have enough gold to do one or two, the Skeletons are kind of just a dinky little meat shield that they absorb one hit from everything, no matter what. So if you have them slightly lower level, if they're level 13, it's not like they're going to survive one extra swing from that mini P.E.K.K.A, right? So if you have them slightly lower level, it's not a big deal. So if you're looking to have one card that can survive being underleveled in a deck like this, it would probably be Skeletons, excuse me. Maybe Skeleton Army, if you have that in another deck, might be an option as well. But what I ended up doing is I got the Musketeer maxed, I got the Cannon maxed, I already had Ice Spirit maxed, I already had Knight maxed, Hog maxed. So what I did is I actually subbed out the Ice Golem, which you would classically find in 2.6, and I put in that Knight instead since I had him maxed out. I also made another few obvious improvisations here. I got the Giant Snowball in there. I just as easily could have put Zap, but I decided to continue to try with the Giant Snowball. Even though it got nerfed, I do enjoy it. I think it works out really well in Hog decks too. You don't necessarily need that stun effect as much as you might need it in, I don't know, like a Golem or a P.E.K.K.A deck, something to counter, their Inferno Dragon or their Inferno Tower. So it's been working out pretty well for me. Is there anything else I changed out? Yeah, I put the Lightning in there as well instead of the Fireball. My Fireball just wasn't up to par, and so I just decided to put the Lightning in there instead. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, it's pretty much classic 2.6 Hog Cycle. You got the two cheap Cycle cards, Skeletons and Ice Spirit. You got the Cannon, the Musketeer, the Hog himself. Let's go ahead and jump on into another match. Now, that last opponent was level 13, but some of his cards were a little bit underleveled. I think that was one of my first few matches, if not the very first, with that deck, so I'm still kind of feeling it out a little bit. This next one, it looks like the opponent's card levels are a little bit more up to par. You can see that he's got a whole ton of golden cards, if not completely max golden cards. All of them so far are golden. So it should be a little bit better of a match here, hopefully. So with this deck, you can afford to be a little bit aggressive. It's not as fast of a cycle as 2.6, but the only major difference is really the Knight costs a little bit more, one more elixir, and certain 2.6 cycle decks will run Knight, and then they'll just run Archers instead of Musketeer. And then the big difference is really the Lightning instead of the Fireball. Lightning, it just works a little bit differently, and it hits 3 targets, highest health prioritized, so it's really good if they have a Musketeer or a Wizard or like an Inferno Tower. If that's the counter to your Hog, Lightning shuts it down completely. But it does cost a little bit more, so it does raise the elixir cost up there for sure. But honestly, if you think about it, most of the time the cards that you're cycling and that you're going through are going to be your cheapest cards, your Ice Spirit and your Skeletons, and then the powerhouse range support is going to be the Musketeer, and the win condition is going to be the Hog Rider. And then the light spell's not really that different. Log, Giant Snowball, Barbarian Barrel, Zap, they're all relatively the same. I know that Log can be advantageous in this deck, and it's definitely more classic. It's the, traditional choice, spell of choice for the cheap spell, but it doesn't change it too much. And those are most of the cards you're cycling. And then, you know, your mini tank costing 1 more, it being a knight instead of an ice golem, not a big deal. So you're not generally, you know, cycling through your fireball. You're not like sending your fireball in to get back to your hog a lot. You're usually using it situationally to counter certain things. So having that spell that costs a little bit more in this deck hasn't really proven to be a hindrance on my, you know, like cycle potential. I've been able to cycle pretty well regardless. So I really enjoy it. And then having that lightning, it is really good. Like right there, you can see I can use it to finish off the furnace, chip away at that Valkyrie there, and then get a little bit of damage off onto the tower as well. Alright, so at this point, I'm just kind of defending. I'm always using the cannon to counter his Hog Rider, at least the best that I can. I still need to work on my cannon placement a little bit, but it looks like it's definitely getting better, and I was able to counter his Hog Rider there. At this point, I go in hard on the right, because I know that I can just lightning or double snowball his left tower. So I'm just going to try to put some pressure on the right, just in case he does manage to get my left tower. Then I'll have a little bit of damage done to his right tower. Or even if he doesn't, it'll distract him and force him to invest a little bit of elixir into that right lane, like he did there with the bats, so that he won't be able to invest as much onto the left tower. So I'm able to finish off that tower with just the Snowball and the Musketeer, you know, kind of ending that match there for us. Alright guys, let's go ahead and jump on into one more match. I remember this one being a pretty good one. I think we had a pretty good ending, and I had one after this. I don't think I'll share it, you know, to save myself the embarrassment, because it was super close and then I lost at the last second. Almost managed to pull it together, but it is what it is. We got to take losses sometimes. Right there, you'll notice that, like I mentioned, I do need to work on my cannon placement. I put the cannon too far to the right or too far down. If I'd put it left one more or up one more and timed it better, it would have caught that Hog Rider for sure. I think in that spot it might have caught it as well, but I just put it too late. If I put it a little bit earlier, maybe if you put it in the far corner, it might not have caught it. But either way, it didn't work out there. So I used the Musketeer to kind of, you know, finish off that Hog Rider. And the cannon does DPS it. So even though it doesn't pull it away, it does the DPS job, which works out pretty well. And then, you know, the Musketeer actually finished off his Goblin Gang, which worked out pretty well. Went in for another counter push, and now I have to defend against all of this right here. I use the cannon. I know that he has a hog, but you can use cannon on defense. I didn't have much else in hand. And then I have the Knight there. And the cannon is just DPSing everything while the Knight is finishing off the Rascal Girls and taking all the damage. So it works out really well for me. Now I need to defend against this Valkyrie. And you'll see, you saw earlier that I used that Lightning. Wasn't the best placement of the Lightning, but it worked out okay and got some chip damage off onto the tower. His Hog, because I used the cannon there earlier to defend against the push, his Hog manages to get a lot of damage onto my tower there, or a few swings onto my tower there. And it finishes off the cannon, you know, isn't too distracted by it. I'm going in here on the left with my Hog. I use the Snowball. Basically, what I'm doing there is it buys me a little bit of time and knocks them back. So I think it allowed the Hog to get 3 swings there. I believe he got that last one, and I wasn't really fully focused on it. But here I need to defend again, and this is very much like a back and forth. And you'll see that a lot with this deck. It's a fast cycle deck. You can cycle back to your Hog Rider real quick. You can, you know, cycle back to your cannon and your defensive troops like your Musketeer really quickly and your Knight. So it's going to be a lot of like, you go in, they defend against it, they counter push, and then you defend against that, and then you counter push. And you really, because it's a fast cycle deck, you really need to keep the pressure up, and you need to try to take advantage of that fast cycle. Not just, you know, send the Hog in every once in a while, or every time you have it up. You know, like, cycle back to the necessary card quickly. If he's putting up a lot of pressure, cycle back to your cannon to defend against his Hog Rider twice in a row before you send yours in. And you're not necessarily going to send your Hog in all the time. You're usually going to send it in like so with a counter push. The Musketeer was alive there on defense, and I knew that I could get a little bit of value there if I sent in the Hog. And it looks like I got one swing off into the tower. And then again, you'll see I almost always just defend with this Knight and Musketeer. He's got a lot of units clumped up together. So I actually meant to Snowball in the center there, not Skeletons first. So the Skeletons were kind of a waste of elixir. But you guys, I mean, just look at that. I'm able to cycle back to everything so quickly that I actually managed to defend here really well, despite that little mistake there. And I just finish off his tower with the Lightning there. And that pulls in a last second victory for us. Alright guys, that is it for today. A little bit shorter video than usual, but that's okay. I just wanted to share with you guys this new ladder deck that I've been having fun with. Basically a 2.6 Hog Cycle deck with a few twists and variations. Make sure to leave the video a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section below. I want to know what you guys have to say about this deck. If you tried it out and you have had luck with it, let me know. If you enjoy 2.6, let me know your opinions on it. If you absolutely hate it, I want to hear about that too. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. You can hit the little burger that's going to pop up here real soon if it hasn't already. I cover a lot of Clash Royale, sometimes some City Skylines, Hearthstone, Apex, a couple other games. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, guys, and have a good night.